Hi guys, welcome back. It's Professor Hank. In this video, we're going to continue our series on Python GUI programming. And in this video, we're going to take a closer look at labels and different options for labels and how you can arrange them within a window and some different options for how you can make them appear. So we'll look at internal padding, external padding. We'll look at adding borders to labels, that sort of thing. And we'll also take a look at a more usual way of organizing your GUI code, which is to say that we're going to put our GUI code inside of a class that is responsible for creating the GUI. All right, so let's go ahead and switch over to Visual Studio and get started on that. First things first, we're going to put all of this stuff into a class. Okay, so let's do that. So we'll call this class myGUI. Okay, and we'll define an init method. Okay, and so when the myGUI object gets instantiated, it's going to create all of the GUI elements. Okay, so what did we have? We had that main loop stuff. We had the main window title. We had one label. Okay, so we'll leave all of that in there. We'll take this main out. Okay. And remember that the dot main loop, this starts the GUI up. Okay, and then this code up here is defining what the GUI is. Okay. And we don't have a main function anymore, so what we have instead is we've got a class, right? So we're going to have to instantiate an instance of the myGUI class. So we'll create a myGUI object, and that is going to be responsible for creating our GUI, right? So let's go ahead and test it and see if there's any problems. Hopefully not. We'll go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so there's the GUI right there. Let's make sure you can see it. There you go. So it works. And we'll go ahead and stop that. And so what are we going to do now? So what we're going to do now is we're going to add another label. First things first, we'll add another label. Okay, and then we'll see how that shapes up. Okay, so we've got label 1. I should be putting self here too, because these should all belong to this instance and not all instances of my GUI. Okay, and so we'll call this label 1, and we'll add another label. So maybe what I'll do is I'll have hello world and goodbye world. Maybe I'll just do something silly like that. Goodbye world. Okay, so we're just going to do some more silly things with labels, right? Just to get a better feel for how they work. So I'll go ahead and start that up. Okay, and let's see here. What did I miss here? Oh, forgot myself in my main window here. Right, because I have to specify which main window we're talking about, and we're talking about the main window that belongs to this object. And I need to name that self label 2. Okay, so let's try one more time. Okay, and by one more time I mean I really mean it this time. There we go. There we are. So you can see there's the hello world and the goodbye world. So when you are creating or adding widgets to your window, okay, and as we'll see, to your frame, okay, the default behavior is to add them into the container, and that's what a window is, a container. It's to add it into the container from the top down. So you can see that hello world is on top of goodbye world, because if you look at the code, if you look at that code, you'll see that we defined label 1, label 2, and then we packed label 1 and we packed label 2. So it's that order that determines what order the things are going to appear in the container. Okay, so we can play around with that a little bit. Let me give you an example of that. And the way we can do that is we can specify inside pack here, we can put an argument, and that argument is going to be left. Okay, we'll use that just to show you what it looks like. And so by doing that, when we enter in the left part, or the left argument, what's going to happen is that it's going to try to add all of the widgets from left to right. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. And we're going to use positional arguments. So the name of the parameter is side. So you'll just say side equals left. Okay, and then for this one right here, we'll say side equals left. Okay, so this is just telling these labels to be added to the window from left to right. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so now you can see, instead of being on top of each other, it's left to right. Okay, so it gives you a couple of options there on how you want things to be added. Now, what's the next thing we want to look at? Let's take a look at how you can add borders to a label. Okay, so there's two things that go into adding a border to a label. Okay, and a border is just a line that gets drawn around the characters, the text basically. And there's two things. There's one is what type of border it's going to be. Okay, and I'll show you a few different ones, and how wide it's going to be in terms of pixels. Okay, so let's go back up to label here, and it's going to be an argument that goes inside of this part right here. Okay, so basically it's being passed to the constructor essentially. So what we'll do is we'll say, all right, how about we have a border width, and we're using positional arguments again, that is 2 pixels wide. Okay, and we have to specify which type of, oops, I should probably learn to spell, huh? Which type of border we're talking about. So, you know, maybe the easiest one is just solid. Okay, and it just makes a solid line, and there's not going to be any kind of three-dimensional look to it. Okay, it's just going to be something that's kind of boring. But I'll show you a couple different versions here in a second. And let me turn the left packing off here, just so it's easier to see when I build and run the program. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, and so now you can see that we've got hello world and goodbye world are on top of each other. Why? Because I packed them in that particular order, and you can see now that there's a black line that is sitting around the outside of the text, around the edge of the label. Why? Because I said that we're going to have a border that was 2 pixels wide, and the relief was going to be solid. Okay, so let me show you a couple other types of reliefs you can have. Okay, so you can, here's another example, flat. We'll see what that looks like. So you can't really see pretty much anything because of that gray background. Okay, so flat is just, you know, nothing basically. Now what about raised? Okay, so you'll be able to see these, you know, in comparison to each other, one after the other. Okay, what does that look like? Okay, so you can see now that there's kind of like this 3D effect, like it's almost like it's a button or something that's been created, right? See that right there, how it's raised up like that? So yeah, it gives it a little bit of a different look. Okay. All right, now let's try another one. sunken. I mean, flat's basically the default, right? And then you can have these different kind of looks and feel to the different labels. Okay. So now you got sunken, so that looks a little bit different. Okay, and I can grab these edges here and reshape it, all that. Okay. All right, let's do a couple more. We'll do ridge, solid, and groove. Ridge. Okay, and I'll just do them side by side. Ridge, solid. Okay. So let's take a look there. Okay, so the top one is ridge. Bottom one is solid. We did solid at the very beginning, right? So you can kind of see there's like this little, almost like a fence. Maybe I should make that a little bit bigger so you can see it. Maybe I'll give it a better border width. So maybe 5 pixels wide so it's easier for you to see. That might be better, huh? Okay, so let's do that. Yeah, so that's a little bit easier now. You can see how it kind of has like this little wall around it, and then solid is just a solid thick line. Okay, and then I think there's one more I wanted to show you here, and that is groove, which is kind of the reverse of ridge. So I'll just change the second label to groove so that way you can see what that looks like, you know, in comparison, right? So one of these bad boys is raised up. That's hello world. You can kind of see that around there. And then goodbye world is kind of like a trench. So ridge is got that, like a wall. You're building a wall around the city. Okay. And then the goodbye world is kind of like that relief, that border there. It's kind of like a trench. Okay. So, you know, which one's better? Which one to use? Well, depends. You know, whatever you need to solve the particular problem that you're dealing with, okay? Whatever the requirements specify, whatever the customer wants, that is which one you're going to use. That's going to be the best one, which is a dangerous thing for me to say, I understand. But my point is that, you know, your design and your code is requirements driven. All right, so I think there's just a couple more things I want to show you here. I want to show you padding, the concept of internal and external padding. So we'll do internal padding first, and there is an X and a Y component to it, and we're going to put a couple arguments in the pack method call. Okay, so iPad X equals 10, okay, and iPad Y equals 10. Okay, so what that's going to do is that's the X dimension, how many pixels along the X axis, I should say, that you're going to pad. And then iPad Y is how many pixels along the Y axis. Okay, so we can do that for both of these guys. And then we'll build it so you can see how it changes the appearance of your code. Okay, so you see that space in between the wall and in between the trench and the words? That is the result of internal padding. Okay, so you can do internal padding, and you can also do external padding. All right, so let me show you what external padding looks like. And doing external padding is basically just leaving the I off. Okay, and since these are positional arguments, I mean, you can have iPad and pad mixed in the same arguments. Okay, but now you can see, since I turned the iPad off, the internal padding off, and we don't have that space around the characters anymore. All right, and what we have instead is space around the outside of the label. In this case, 10 pixels. Okay, now if I was to mix and match, you know, then I could say, well, iPad X equals 10, okay, and iPad Y equals 10, right? And you know, I'll do that for the second label as well. Okay, and let's start it and see what that looks like. Right, so you see now how we got the space on both sides of the border. like I said, you can combine, you can mix and match these guys. All right, so I think that's everything that I wanted to share with you. You can, I say that, but let me give you one more little thing, okay? So you can mix and match the different amounts of external padding to each side, okay? So I can do something like this, okay? What I do is I just assign a tuple instead. So I could say something like 10, 5, okay? And so what that's going to do is that's going to do padding for the left and the right side, okay? And then if I was to do something like this, okay, this is the padding for the top and the bottom, okay? Okay, pad equals that. Okay, so I'll just do that one, and then I'll run it just to show you what that looks like. Okay, so you can see that we have different padding on the external on the left of Hello World, that label, and on the right, and then also the top and the bottom. They're different. Okay, now you can use that type of well, actually I say that this is only going to work with, it's not going to work with this way, right? So with internal padding has to be uniform. Okay, it took me a second to remember that fact. Internal padding, unfortunately, you can't use this technique, the same technique that you can with external padding. Okay, all right, so I think that is everything that I wanted to show you in this video, and we're going to come back to some of those options later on with some of the other widgets, because you're going to find that you're going to be able to mix and match these options between the different types of widgets to different effects. So if you're a student of mine, as usual, feel free to send me an email or hit me up during my Zoom office hours or whatever. If you're not a student of mine and you know, you thought the video, well, even if you are a student of mine, right? If you thought the video was useful, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If the video sucked, then you can give me that thumbs down as well. And please consider supporting the channel in different ways. Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you know when the new videos have been released, and leave a comment. And if you're not a student of mine, then for everybody else, you know, we've got paid memberships with additional perks for as low as 99 cents a month. We have the super thanks button as well. So that's everything I got for you. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for episode 3. These videos I try to put out every Friday. I'll drop a new video that is released at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So thanks to all the subscribers, thanks to all the members, thanks for all the support. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.